Hi there, and today we're going to be building the micro command center, and then we're going to be motorizing it so all the space babies can go on a nice ride. Now, if you didn't know, this set is called the Micro Command Center, and it was a LEGO Ideas set, but it wasn't one that you could buy at a LEGO shop. You had to trade in 2,250 LEGO Insider points for it, and in the UK, 800 points is worth £5 off a LEGO purchase, so this was worth about £14 worth of points. Now, I really liked the original submission of this idea, although the original was a lot larger and more chunky. It didn't have brickboard track like the final version did, it used the LEGO roller coaster pieces instead. However, even though the original submission was built for the space babies, I think the train itself is oversized for them. And I think the size of the train in the final set is a lot more in keeping with the size of the space babies. And I'm hoping once it's motorized, I think this might be another part of the set which would be really good to modify. But before we start building, as always, I have to give an amazing shout out to all my channel members. I can't thank you enough for the support you give the channel. And if you're interested in getting your name on a brick at the beginning of my videos, you can either click on the join button below this video or the link in the description, and it'll give you all the details of becoming a channel member. Now, if you're interested in this set or motorizing it or modifying it, it's actually still available on the LEGO website. They only permit purchases of one per household, but personally for 2,250 LEGO Insider points, I think it's really worth it. Now, the motorization of this set is not actually a design of my own. It's one that I found on Rebrickable, and it's by JK Brickworks, whose projects on Rebrickable mainly based around motorization and mechanical works. Now, the original set had 214 pieces. The modification takes another 164 pieces, but 66 of those are these chain link pieces which tow the train around the track. So first of all, I'm going to open this set up and build it as LEGO intended, and then we're going to follow JK Brickworks instructions and motorize it. So the set comes with 4 numbered bags, a very standard looking set of instructions, and a sticker sheet with 8 stickers. So bag 1 builds the train, bag 2 builds the track, bag 3 builds the micro command center support structure, and bag 4 builds the command center itself. So let's get building. And here's the finished thing, and I am so glad that I got this set. The designers have made it so in keeping with classic space sets, especially including these bright, transparent yellow windows. As always, it's a shame that there's not more printed parts, but I don't actually mind applying stickers. We've got a classic space logo up here. We've got a number 1222 here. I'm not entirely sure what that's in reference to. Quite often it's something to do with the set designer themselves, so if you've heard what that is reference to, let me know in the comments below. Underneath the command centre we've got some very classic space looking control panels, and up top we've got even more, and also a place for our space baby to sit. The idea for the track is really clever. We've got tiles, 2 raised up, 1 on each side, and then the one in the middle is slightly recessed. So on the corners we've got 3 different radiuses of curved macaroni tiles. We've got these ones on the smallest and the largest on the inside and the outside, and then that middle one recessed by 1 plate. And then the train itself, they've made it white, and we've got these blue glass pieces for the cab at the front. I think they're trying to make it look a little bit like the Space Monorail set. And then underneath we've got 1x1 round plates, and they just sit in the groove. So as it goes round, it just follows the track, and the back one follows the front nicely. I imagine if there was 2 in that, it wouldn't go around the curves quite as well as it does. But we've got 2 on the front train, and it follows with that 1 plate behind. So as it stands, I think it's an absolutely great set. But also, as it stands, it's got limited playability. So I think JK Brickworks had an amazing idea that it needs to be motorised. Now in the build, there's an awful lot of very standard pieces. We've got lots of 1x4s, 2x4s, and 1x6 bricks. We've got some standard plates and an awful lot of 2x2 macaroni bricks. The only unstandard bit is to do with these chain link pieces. Now these chain link pieces are very common, they've been in lots and lots of sets. However, the train won't fix to them alone, it needs one special part. And that's this piece. It's got a chain link piece at the bottom, however it's got this long bar sticking out at the top. And this was only in one set, and that was the Pac-Man set. And they were used in that set for the ghosts and Pac-Man to be attached to, so they could move around the screen. So that was the only obscure piece I found slightly more difficult to source on Bricklink. Now JK Brickworks supplies these instructions for free, so you can download them straight from Rebrickable, which I've done straight to my iPad, so I'm going to start building them from here. I'm not entirely sure how much of the original set I'm going to have to take apart to build this. Most of the command center looks pretty much the same. We may be able to just lift that off and attach it to the new track once it's been built up slightly. Now the instructions do build a turn handle behind the command center, so you can wind the train round manually. However, it's being motorised by a non-Lego piece, which is called a circuit cube. So when we get to that, I'll introduce those to you because it's the first time for me using them. And here's the finished build, and yes, it's basically exactly the same set. It's just everything below the top layer of tiles has been built up an awful lot to accommodate that chain going round inside. The base is pretty much the same, and we've got the tiles down there on the bottom for it to run across on, so those the chain has something smooth to run against, but it's in there, it's fairly tight as well. I was worried I'd miscounted on how many chain pieces I needed, but I put the correct number in. So now we need to add the train on top. Now underneath the train obviously had those 1x1 round plates. If we sit it on as it was before, it'll happily run around as it was if we push it along. But what the instructions say is that we're meant to remove that front 1x1 round plate and replace it with a 1x1 round brick. And then we need to find that all-important piece with the bar sticking up, and then that brick sits on top of the bar piece like that. Actually, it might be better to try and do it on a straight, if we can get that attached like this. And then the trailing car just obviously sits in with its plate as it did before. Yes, there it is. Now the instructions also say you can just make a simple crank handle, and then if we turn that, there we have, which we do need to turn it this way, we've got our train, our little micro command center train going around the track all by itself. Well, I'm cranking it from behind like that. But that, again, has limited play, so let's try and add that all-important motor. Now, I've seen circuit cubes around for quite a while now, but I've never had a project which needed them until now, so I bought this tiny set. So let's find out what's inside. And they're called circuit cubes because all the items are generally little cubes. So first of all, we have the all-important battery cube, and this has two metal terminals on this side, which you can attach to on the top and also underneath there. It's got a USB to charge it by, and then on this side, we've got a switch for on and off. And you can see when it goes on, we get an LED. The next cube in this set is one that we won't be using in this build, and it's an LED cube. Again, it's got those two metal bars at the front. If we click that on top of the circuit cube, not that way, we've probably got our poles wrong way around. Yeah, there we go, the LED lights up, and that is a very bright LED. And then lastly, but most importantly for this build, is the motor cube, and this has got an absolutely minute motor on it. Lego once made a very, very tiny motor called a micro motor, and I hope one of those I should do a comparison with that at some point in a video, but that is going to go underneath our circuit cube, and hopefully, no, it doesn't go on that way. Maybe we need to turn it round. There we go, so our motor's turning around. In the set I also get a micro USB cable to charge the battery cube with, and several of these little cables with clips on the end, so if you don't want your cube, your battery cube and your motor cube attached, you can just simply click them onto the metal poles. Let's click them onto the battery. And then hopefully when we turn it on, we've got the motor that way, and then we don't have to physically stack them on top of each other. They can be a certain distance apart. Now for this build, all we need to do is add another cog onto the end of that motor cube like that. Hopefully we may need to lift this section up and slot that in. There we go, and that's now back down. And then if we put the battery on top, let's see, when I turn it on, I need to move that hand crank out of the way. There, we've got a little motorised tram. Two things I've seen that I immediately want to change is firstly, as the train comes around the corner, if you're at a low angle you can see that white brick, and secondly, the back car seems to slide around the corner sideways slightly. I can easily fix that white brick and change it to black, but getting that back car not to slide around the corner is something I probably need to work on. So it's dead easy to pull that white brick off, and we're going to replace that with a black one. And while we're there, we might as well change those 1x1 plates as well. I've got a stack of plates here, so we can put, oh, didn't come off. We can put a 1x1 plate behind it there, and then on the rear car as well, take that grey one off. And we'll add a black one on instead. Then hopefully from that low angle we won't see that brick as it comes around the corner. For a first use of these circuit cubes, I think they are absolutely amazing. The way they can just stack on top of each other and make electrical connection. If you think about the size we'd need for a Lego motor, it would be at least 1.5 times the height of that pink cube and at least twice the length. And the battery box for this would be absolutely ginormous, twice the size and probably twice the height as well. Now, I'm not one to generally use third-party items in my Lego builds, but these are so cute and small, my mind is already running to many, many uses that I can use them for. Particularly my London underground tube train, which I always had a problem trying to fit a battery box inside. And while I was buying that small cube set, I also bought this one, which is called the Bluetooth upgrade set. And here, the battery cube is slightly taller, but it's also Bluetooth enabled. So you can remote control it, and therefore you don't have to keep clicking that switch, and it's also can go in forward and reverse. So that would be particularly useful for my London Underground tube train. So JK Brickworks does an awful lot of really good motorised builds, and he hasn't disappointed with this one at all. Personally, I'd really like to expand this. If there's any way I can get a second command centre, we could have 2 stations with a much longer track between them. We could also get my micro rocket launchpad set, which is also built for space babies. We could incorporate that into the build. But that would involve an awful lot more pieces and track and a lot more of those chain link pieces. But if it's something you'd like to see me build in the future, let me know in the comments below and I'll have a work on it for a future video. But as always, let me know what you think of this original set and the modification in the comments below. If you'd like to support the channel and get your name on a brick, please click on the join button below or the link in the description and it'll give you all the details. If you like this video though, please do give it a thumbs up, it really helps me out. But of course, please subscribe for more LEGO videos.